If you just joined us, I'd like to welcome you to this IIA 60-minute webinar, GradCertIA Information Webinar, presented by Amanda Shepherd, Education Manager and Registrar for IIA Australia, Michael Pitt, GradCertIA Module Coordinator and Managing Partner for Pitt Group, Shannon Buckley, GradCertIA Tutor and Senior Audit Partner, Deakin University, and Tracy Piscopo, former GradCertIA student and Principal Risk and Audit Officer, New South Wales Department of Premier and Cabinet. I'm going to start today's session with Amanda. Amanda, I'm just opening up your mic. Hi there.
Hi.
And I'm just passing control to you. Enjoy the session, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Michael. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for dialing in today, and hopefully we'll be able to cover off everything that you need to know and want to know about the GradCert. But also, please do take advantage of the other people that we have on the webinar, because to hear from like a tutor and former student is a great opportunity for you to ask some questions of them. And as Michael mentioned, we also have Michael Pitt, and Michael's been very involved in the content development for the course, as well as assessments, and he does a lot of the reporting each semester as well. So I'll do the majority of the presentation, but I will be handing over to Michael Pitt to do some around the content, and then I'll also pull Tracy and Shannon in at certain points. But as I say, please feel free to ask questions throughout. We want to make this as informative as possible for you, and also post-session, you're more than welcome to contact me as well. So just to get underway, this is just a bit of a list of the sorts of things we're going to go through. So basically, we'll just go through what the graduate certificate is, why you should do it, what the sort of learning environment is, the content, the course structure and content, how you work your way through it, the assessment that is in each of the modules, and what sort of materials, and of course, how much time and what the workload is for you, and when you can actually undertake it. So to kick off, for those of you that aren't aware of the Institute of Internal Auditors Australia, the IIA globally is the leading body representing internal auditors, and there's about 187,000 members globally in 190 countries. So we're really truly a global organisation. And in Australia, we're connected with around 7,000 people and around just under 3,000 members. So we have a board, a governing board, and actually within that, or just under that, we also have an education committee who is a subcommittee of the board that oversees the graduate certificate. We have the national office based in Sydney, and we have chapters made up of volunteers in each of the states and the ACT. And for those of you in New Zealand, we do work fairly closely with IIA New Zealand as well. So we ultimately, as the education professional development of the organisation, we're really looking to develop internal auditing professionals, and so they can excel and excel in your jobs. And the education program is designed with the professional development and education, such as the graduate certificate, is to basically find options for internal auditors throughout your careers. So we do aim to have something for everybody at any stage. So the education program, so today we will be specifically focusing on the graduate certificate, but just to let you know how that fits into the whole of our program, we also work with IIA Global to offer the Certified Internal Auditor, which is the flagship global certification, and some specialty certifications, so in risk management, control self-assessment, financial services and government. So, but as I say, we will specifically be focusing on the graduate certificate today. The graduate certificate is a pathway to professional membership with the Institute, and the other pathways are the CIA, or for very experienced practitioners, assessment of current competence. So that's just to paint a bit of a picture for you as to where everything sits. So what is the GradCert? So in full, it's the Graduate Certificate in Internal Auditing. We do tend to abbreviate it because it's a little long-winded, but so it's a fully accredited postgraduate qualification, so with TEXA, and TEXA is the Tertiary Education Qualification Standards Agency. So it sits on level 8 of the Australian Qualifications Framework, so that's above a bachelor's, and it just sits between a bachelor's and a graduate diploma. So we are also a registered higher education provider with TEXA. We've actually just had our registration renewed for the maximum period of 7 years, and the graduate certificates are fully accredited course with TEXA as well, and that's also just been re-accredited for the maximum amount of 7 years. So it's designed to provide those undertaking, and by the time you graduate, with the skills, knowledge and values that are essential for a professional internal auditor. So it's designed also to be very practical. It was designed by the profession for the profession. The idea is that when you're studying it, you can actually apply what you're learning directly back into your workplace. And that's regardless of what sort of workplace you're in, it is suited toward corporate, government or not-for-profit. So it's really, we do aim to make it a practical course. It's an entirely online course, so that does provide you with flexibility. There's no face-to-face component at all. There is some real-time component with some webinars, but for the most part, it's sort of in your own time, but within parameters and deadlines around assessment, which I'll get to a bit later. So, as I already mentioned, it also provides you with a pathway to professional membership with IIA Australia. So, who should study it? Generally speaking, it is for people who are wanting to establish a career in internal audit, governance or risk, or to further develop. So if you're fairly new or you're maybe an aspiring manager, you are probably the ideal group. That said, we do get people that are more experienced who specifically want a postgraduate qualification. But that's probably the primary group, and if you're really looking for that flexibility with your study, then this is a great way to do it, because it does, with being online, it does give you that flexibility. So you may have participation questions to answer, and we'll get into this in more detail, but you may be given a week or 2 weeks to answer that question. So it doesn't have to be at the time that it's posted. If you are juggling, as a large number of people in doing the course are juggling, work, family life, social commitments, everything else, you may not get to those questions till 11 o'clock at night, and that's fine. So it can fit around your timetable, keeping in mind that you do have deadlines and there are parameters around it. So as I mentioned, if other people who it's suited to are people that specifically want to get professional membership with IIA Australia, which is the top level of membership with the organisation. So it does represent you well, talking to clients, and to show professional membership shows that you have reached a certain level within the internal auditing profession. And also, as I think I touched on before, corporate, government and not-for-profit. So it is across the board. It is suited to all types of people. I just wanted to really quickly ask this question, and it's just to give me an idea to who's here. But can you, Michael, can you please open the poll? And I just want to ask whether you're enrolled here today just to, because you're considering enrolling yourself, or whether you're actually maybe a senior manager who's looking to send somebody from your team. I think that might be the wrong poll question.
Oopsies. My apologies for that. Let's close that poll. So that was just a bit of a test, everyone. So that's a question that's going to come up later on. My apologies. Technology. So let me just change things up. I'm just waiting for the poll results to tabulate. It was all positive anyway. That's good to see. All right. So here we go. Try this poll question here. This one here. All right. Open poll. My apologies. There we are.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just give you a brief time. It's a fairly easy question. But, how long do you normally allow for this, Michael?
Usually I have the poll open for... we usually have the poll open for about 40 seconds. So I've got about 20 seconds to go. So do pop in a response and then click submit. Thanks.
Yeah, it's really just so I have a bit of a gauge of who I'm talking to there.
There we are. And the poll is now finished. And I'm just going to close the poll, and here's the results. Okay. So it's pretty much as I expected. So, so that's good to see. So there are well, based on those percentages and the numbers, I guess that's a couple of you who are here thinking about your team, and that's another group that is very important, because we do get people on the studying the course who there's a CAE or a senior manager who has a team, whether it's a new team or a newly created team. Maybe people coming from other areas, and they really want to get everybody up to speed. So that may be one or more members of the team to study the course. And we have had quite large groups from one organisation, coming in, and so their whole team is undertaking the course. So I'm pleased to see that we've got a bit of a mixture there. So what are the admission requirements for undertaking the course? I need to get my chat back so I can see if anybody's asking any questions here. So there are two pathways. There's an award pathway and a non-award. So for award, you're required to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree to enter. And if you have that, if it's from a country outside of Australia, we just need to determine that it's equivalent to an Australian bachelor's or above. And also, if it was done in a language other than English, then we do need to see evidence of an English language test, the IELTS 7 or equivalent. We do also have the non-award entry, which is where this may vary a little from some other postgraduate qualifications. Being a professional qualification, we think it's important that you can get into the course even if you haven't studied before. So the requirement there is that you have 2 years experience in internal audit or a related field, and we do detail that on the website, but areas such as governance, risk, compliance, external auditing, areas like that. So if you don't have a degree and you do have some experience, we can assess that. The other hurdle for a non-award is that you need to receive a credit grade or above in Module 1 to proceed to the rest of the in the rest of the course and to go through to the other modules. When you are applying, if you're applying as an award, we do need to see original signatures of the documents being certified. So either we need your originals, but in most cases we would receive certified documents, so they can't be emailed, is basically the bottom line. We do need to see an original signature certifying those documents. So as such, we do advise applying, allowing yourself some time when applying, so that we can assess those documents and make sure that everything's okay. For a non-award, we can accept emails. So what's the learning environment, and how does the course actually play out, I guess? What it is an online classroom, and it's supported by a tutor. I'll just go through this briefly, because then I think we will bring Tracy and
Shannon in. We might start with Shannon just to describe the classroom a bit, and then maybe Tracy can say a few words about how it works as a student. So it's an online, we use Moodle as our learning management system. So you're placed into an online classroom and you have a tutor, and there are discussion forums which your tutor will post a weekly or fortnightly question, as they'll get Shannon to talk a little bit more about this, to which you are required to respond. Your participation in the forums are accessible, so they're a very important part, and of course being online, that engagement in the online environment is very important to your learning and hearing from your peers, and that's part of a very important part of the whole learning experience. So as well as those discussion forums, there's also real-time webinars, and they're presented by industry practitioners, very experienced industry practitioners. We have 3 per semester in modules 1, 2, and 3, and we have 2 in module 4, and they're specifically designed to relate to the content that you're covering at that point in the semester. So they're important. As I say, they are real time. If you really can't make it, and we understand that often happens through work or other issues, there is a recording you can watch, but it's definitely encouraged to watch it live because you also get the benefit of the chat, and it also makes for a better environment for the presenter as well. So the course is also supported by study materials and textbooks. So there is a very comprehensive manual that you're provided with, which includes activities and includes information, readings, that sort of thing. There's a textbook for Module 1 and there's a textbook for Module 3. And as well as that, there are additional recommended readings. There's additional reference material that is put into Moodle as well. So there is quite a lot, and as well as all that, we do have the technical resources that are available on the IIA Australia website and also on the global website. You do have access to those materials. We also use Productivity Knowledge Leader, which is another great resource for internal auditing. So there is a lot of support, but we also, it's a postgraduate qualification. It is expected that you will do some of your own research. So out of all that, access to a computer is essential. So Shannon, would you like to say a little bit just about how maybe how the discussion forum works, and
Sure.
then maybe pass to Tracy to say a little bit from a student perspective?
Yep, probably just want to add a couple of things to the modules, if I can, Amanda. Firstly, the modules are progressed via I guess, the process of an audit. So modules 1 will kind of like talk to about how to plan an audit, how to execute. Module 2 is about legal and reg. Module 3 is a little bit about finance and IT. And then module 4, which is what I look after, is more teachers do the soft skills. So it tries to pull together the skills you've previously learned into a kind of like a formal process, I guess. Specifically to the interactions, I mean, I usually produce or provide online questions on a fortnightly basis for students to answer, and that's supplemented by the webinars. And I mean, we have, again, it depends on the cohort itself, but we have very engaging conversations about things that they're currently experiencing at work, questions, queries, etc. So it's a very fluid discussion on those issues as well. And then the assignments, again, very much an interactive, real life, case-based scenarios that are presented to the students. So, I mean, really the intention of this course, and particularly around Module 4, is very much to say, look, what can I take away on a Friday and implement on the Monday, so to speak. And given that all the tutors are basically do auditing as a full-time gig, basically, and so they're actually able to share with you practical experience, practical tips, etc. That that you can just start working literally from the time you've actually learned it. So that's kind of like the background, and it's quite an enjoyable course. A few of my guys here at work have gone through it as well.
Tracy, do you have anything to add from a student's perspective?
Yes, thanks, Amanda. So the Moodle I found as a learning management system is really user-friendly and interactive, and the navigation it's really easy to use. In terms of collaborating with other students, it's a great way to collaborate with each other and share your thoughts and feelings and fears if there are some. And, you know, sometimes what you're thinking, another student might be thinking as well. So it's a great way to reach out and share that knowledge with one another. In terms of using it with answering the questions, the webinars I found were extremely valuable in the course learnings, and with the study materials and textbooks. Even today, I still refer to my materials because they are still relevant today as they were a couple of years ago. You know, I can't stress enough how valuable this course is, and I strongly encourage anybody who's listening today, or you can take the message back, that this course really does change the way you work in your work environment because the learnings are real and they're relevant.
That's great. Thank you, Tracy. I'm going to get to a question slide, but do remember, if you've got any questions as we go, please do type them in. I don't think I've missed any at this point, so please do. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of how that whole sort of learning environment. I mean, I think until you're right in there, you know, you can't completely grasp it, but hopefully that gives you some, you know, some idea. And I think also that although it's online, I think just going on from what Tracy said, that it's inclusive, so you don't need to feel isolated while you're doing it online. You do have that support, and you can talk to other students, and of course your tutor and us, the IA as well. So this is just a look at what Moodle is. I'll just show that very briefly. It shows each of the modules that are there, and then this is an example of module 1, which just shows the units, and then down the left-hand side there's the menu. I know that's quite small, but it's just to give you a snapshot of what it looks like. And then there's we can post an announcement. You have your discussion forum. Down the side we've got where you submit assignments, where the learning resources are. And on the right-hand side is where there will be events coming up as well. So, as I said, so does anybody have any questions, burning questions, or if not, I take it that we're covering everything off. Okay, I will keep going. So, at this point, the course structure. I'm about to pass over to Michael Pitt to talk a bit about this. As I mentioned, Michael's been very involved so Michael has an internal auditing consultancy, and him and his team have been very involved in development, along with some other practitioners have also contributed to the development, including Shannon has contributed to it. But Michael is also involved, and his team involved in updating the materials each semester. We do go through it in case there's been any changes, either to the standards or to the legislation or anything like that. So it consists of 4 modules, and I'll just put these out, and then I will hand over to Michael. And Michael, if you'd like me to, you can just tell me to change the slide if you like.
Yeah, I'll do that. Great, thanks, Amanda. So, look, as the slide indicates, there's 4 modules. Each module is discrete, although there's a logical flow from 1 through to 4. So, we might just flick to the next slide, please, Amanda. Great. Okay, so Module 1, risk-based internal auditing, is fundamentally structured around the International Professional Practices Framework. So the framework, or the IPPF as it's commonly referred to, is really the overarching guidelines that the Institute puts out to support internal audit functions. And it basically talks about two sorts of things. One, around how to manage the internal audit function, so planning your 3-year work program, all those sorts of things. And then the second thing is really around executing individual audits, so guidance in planning, field work, reporting, and then there's a whole series of other guidance in relation to providing a quality assurance improvement program to improve your audit function. So Module 1 is very much designed around taking candidates through the IPPF, and at the end of it you will have a very clear understanding of the internal audit procedures, how it all ties in, how to engage with the IPPF. So just flick to the second module, please, Amanda. The second module, legal and regulatory environment, the initial brief was to be something like a mini MBA, which is probably a very generous concept. But really what Module 2 is trying to do is provide the macro, big picture environment for internal auditors. So a very key thing for us is to understand the operating environment in which our particular organisation operates, and we consider that both private sector, public sector and not-for-profit organisations, and understanding the context in which an internal audit function and internal auditor operates within that environment, because it's very important that we understand the external influences impacting our organisation and can factor that into our day-to-day work as well as our longer-term planning. So as you can see with those topics, we're going to talk about ethics, legal and regulatory environment, the economic environment, and we also talk about fraud risk, because that's one of those areas that the internal audit function has some involvement in, but not necessarily a detailed involvement. So picking apart where internal audit sits and where a fraud investigation area at their particular responsibilities. So we might just move to the third one, please, Amanda. Module 3, Organisational Systems and Processes, is really looking at two key business areas within organisations that internal audit often provides assurance in, and that's finance in one area, and the second one is IT. So really, it's quite a technical and detailed module. We have people who are coming in with accounting backgrounds versus those with non-accounting, so there's that challenge to make sure that the content is interesting and engaging for both levels of knowledge. And in the ICT area, which is continually changing, I don't need to tell people that what was important in the IT world 5 years ago is fundamentally different to what it is today. So that content continues to change, and Shannon's been key to helping develop that content as well. We'll just move to the final module, please, Amanda. So Module 4, Professional and Practice, is really split into two areas. The first part of the module talks about our soft skills. So previous modules have been technical around particular areas, and one of the key things that we teach our candidates is around the soft skills, so influence and communication, leadership and teamwork, conflict resolution and negotiation. The second part of the module is quite a stepped change away from the, I guess, normal, traditional learning techniques about presenting information, asking candidates to analyse that information and provide some sort of response. We talk about reflection, and it's a key concept that's established in the tertiary sector, really encouraging people to reflect upon what they've learnt, and I think Shannon made the comment earlier, and then translating that theoretical knowledge to your workplace. How do I apply what I've learnt? How is that going to change the way I behave and do my work going forward? So there's sort of the 4 key modules. Just make a couple of points with regards to some of the skills that we expect candidates to have or to develop throughout the course. And the first skill really is about being able to write. And it's interesting to see candidates may come from different backgrounds. One of the key skills that you're going to need to do is be able to write some assignments in an essay format. So we might ask a traditional, here's a question, and provide a 500, 1,000, 2,000 word response. So being able to logically set out your argument in an essay format is really important. So if that's not something which you're familiar with, it would certainly be worth brushing up prior to undertaking the course. And there's plenty of material out on the web to give you guidance. The second area, again, is around the capstone and reflection, and being able to think about, as you go through the course, what material has had an impact on you and how that's potentially changed the way you've approached your work, or how, in hindsight, you may have tackled a particular problem. Tracy, I'm going to throw you in the deep end here, having been a past student. Have you got any particular thoughts on that reflection and how you went about it? I'm not sure if we've got a silence there, or whether it's the system not working, or...
You there, Tracy?
Possibly
there
not.
We go.
Okay.
We've lost Tracy.
Tracy, you still there?
No, she's still there.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
I can.
Yeah. Okay. So with the reflection, I think have a look at it up front. So when you get your course material and your content, have a look at it up front and start making some notes early on. Don't leave it to the last minute and think, oh, what was that? What was that about again? Or I can't really remember what happened, when I first studied the course. So, start your journal and your reflection as you go along through each module, so that you can have a look at those areas where you've grown as well, and start making some notes along the way.
Fantastic.
Shannon, do you have any... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go, Amanda.
I was just going to say, Shannon. So Shannon has tutored other modules, but he's been doing Module 4 now for some time.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comments to make on Module 4?
Look, I guess on Module 4, what we try and bring together is your learnings from the 3 previous modules. So it is the capstone module. So it tries to bring the learnings, and again, the focus, and I try to make it very much a practical application, what's actually relevant in your role at the moment. So, I mean, there are going to be aspects of that where there's a greater emphasis. And also, so in the conversations we try to encourage with the remaining cohort is their experience as well too. So it's a little bit different from the other 3 where you're actually learning material, but here it's actually the practical application. So and it's a lot of sharing of ideas. So I mean that's probably the key differentiator, and being a last module in the course, it actually everyone's kind of like has some experience in doing some sort of internal audit at that point, whether that's in theory or in practice.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Michael, for going through each of the modules. Just a quick word on the progression. So, Module 1, being the introductory module, is compulsory module. So you have to do that before you can move on. Now, modules 2 and 3, they can be done together, although I would suggest that that's only done if you really think you have the time or the capacity to do it. Which you can probably gauge from having done Module 1. There is recognition of prior learning available for Modules 2 and or Modules 3. So we have more information available on the website about that. I can provide information about that as well. And Modules 1, 2 and 3 must be completed before undertaking Module 4. So whatever way you choose to do Modules 2 and 3, but those 3 must have been completed either through the study or the RPL before you can undertake Module 4. But once you've finished Module 4, you've completed the entire program. So just pause again here. I know it's a lot of information to take in, but hopefully we're covering it clearly. So if you do have any questions, can you please just type them into the chat box, and we can answer those for you. Just give you a moment to think about that. No questions? Okay. Oh, okay. How long is it expected to take from Shelley? Oh, sorry, I can't quite read your name. Nandeli Relevant. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I've got a little bit coming up about the course load. I noticed Sophie's got a question about the course load, so I'm just going to self-directed. Yeah, when we get to the course load, we'll cover that question: how many hours per housing class is it, and how many self-directed? Well, I'll quickly respond to that, saying it's effectively sort of directed by the tutor, but it's self-directed. So you don't have any real-time class time, if that's clear. So the tutor will post something that you will respond to, and as Shannon mentioned, for Module 4, you're given that's posted every fortnight. So you have the opportunity within that time to respond to the discussion question. So just going back to how long is it expected to take from Shelley, the course. Ultimately, the quickest you could possibly do it would be a year if you got RPL for Modules 2 and 3. I have to say it's quite rare that people get RPL for Modules 2 and 3, but it is possible. Generally speaking, the most common scenario is that we operate on 2 semesters a year. The most common scenario is that people would do 1 module per semester. So most people would take 2 years to do it. There is 5 years to complete, so if you do a module, then the next semester you have major work commitments or you have some other commitments, you can just miss a semester and then come back the following semester. So the most common scenario is 2 years. Then but some people will do it. Some people will do it a little less than that. That's a handful of people. And then there's probably another, probably slightly larger group that might take a bit longer to do it. Just let me see these other questions. Can you discuss Module 1 can be done simultaneously completed with either 2 or 3 from George? No, George, the Module 1 must be done first. So Module 1 is effectively, I guess, a prerequisite for the rest of the course. So you must do Module 1 first and pass Module 1 before you can go on to Module 2 and or 3. And then you have to have completed 1, 2 and 3 before you can do Module 4. So Module 4 is the other module that must be done as a standalone module. From Bron, does the module referencing IT also cover ICT security? Michael, can you answer that question for Bron? Michael?
Amanda, I can probably do that.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yep, it does cover up IT security, but as a very basic introductory type activity, because given IT audit in that is, I think, covers off 4 weeks or 6 weeks, which is half the course for that particular module. So it does cover that, but at a very high level.
And Brian, I've just seen that you that you looked on the website as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so hopefully that covers your question. Shelley, to answer your question, once approved, you have 5 years to complete. Yes, that's correct. Yes, so from when you first start Module 1, it's 5 years. So people do look, things come up all the time during study and life generally. So people may do a couple of semesters and then something comes up which just makes it impractical to undertake the module in another semester. So you do have the 5 years. So some people use the full 5 years, some people use a couple of years. So that's that's why it's there to actually allow, because probably 98% of people that we currently have studying it are also working, and most of them full-time. So, yeah, we need to make that allowance. Hopefully I've covered all those questions. Just to move on to assessment. So the assessment, this table just gives you a bit of an overview. This could change occasionally, like we introduced a quiz into Module 1, so we changed the weightings a little bit. The course is evolving all the time to keep up with what's happening sort of in the real world. So there's the 4 modules. They all have an assignment 1, which is fairly early on in the semester. So it's held usually around week 5. Then there's the major assignment, which is held at the very end of semester, which is the assignment 2. The reason that PIP, which is Professional and Practice Module 4, is slightly lower weighting is because there's also the reflective journals included for Module 4. An important thing to note about assignment 2, the major assignment, is that as well as obtaining 50% or above for the entire module, you also need to attain 50% or above on the final assignment. So it's an important consideration. So even if you've done very well in the rest of the course, you do need to reach that 50% or above in Module 4. The other hurdle, as I mentioned earlier, is that for Module 1 non-award candidates, you need to reach a credit or above in Module 1 in order to progress. So Module 1 also has a quiz, which is there. It's intended as a sort of a tracking your progress type of mechanism. So it's done through Moodle, through the learning management system. There's a bank of questions. It's multiple choice. You're given a week to undertake it. And you sit down and spend your, however long, 20, 30 minutes, I think you've given an allocated time, 30 minutes, to do your quiz, and you get the results for that, and that's with 10% of your final mark. But it's very much designed to be something between assignment 1 and the final assignment, so you're tracking how you're going. And then, as we talked about, the online participation, very important component, and that is going back to the question about the class time. So that is where you answer those discussion forums. So there's no real time in the classroom. It's discussion posts, questions posted by your tutor, and then you have to respond to those discussion questions, and you're marked on those responses, so the quality rather than the quantity of the response. And the other element of the participation is the webinars. So you are marked on attending the webinar, so all the webinars are logged. Your participation in the webinars are logged, not chat, just the fact that you've been watching the webinar, but there is a discussion question that's posted by your tutor after the webinar, so the next day after the webinar, and you are also marked on that. So that's the participation and classroom component. And so with the discussion forums within your classroom, you'll respond, other students will respond, and that's where you have that discussion. But just to stress again, it's not a real time, so you don't have to be in that classroom at 2 p.m. every Thursday or whatever. You can do it at midnight if you wish, or if that's what suits your schedule. So that's does anybody else want to add anything to the assessment? Shannon or Tracy or Michael?
Just
oh, we've lost you. Shannon, are you muted or?
Sorry, can you hear me, Amanda?
Yep. I can now.
Okay, sorry, I just had it on mute. Just with the assessments, with the journals there, sorry, with the second assignment, the major assignment, from a PIP perspective, there is opportunity to provide an outline of the assignment, and I'll go through that and provide some feedback and make sure you're on the right direction. So there is that support prior to handing out the assignment. So we don't let you just off on your own and no guidance, etc. So there's a strong oversight, if I can say that, prior to you actually handing in the assignment on where you're going.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Shannon, because that's the case in modules 1, 2, and 4, that there is the opportunity to provide an outline. It's not compulsory, it's not accessible, but it's highly encouraged that you actually do that, because it does give you the opportunity to just note down the types of points that you're going to be including in your major assignment, and then it gives your tutor can come back to you and say you might want to, you know, look at this area a bit more or not focus so much on that, and it really does provide a great opportunity. It's just one opportunity where you can submit and the tutor will respond, but it's an extremely good, and as Shannon said, look, it just helps to point you in the, you know, in the right direction a bit. Okay, we might move on. So I think I've touched on some of this actually before. But so the learning materials, you are supported with a lot of learning materials. As I said before, you get a comprehensive learning pack. You get it's a manual of materials. They're all available on Moodle as well. So we currently do hard and soft copies. There's within Moodle, there's more readings. There are the textbooks in modules 1 and 3. There are additional recommended readings. We have the webinars, and then we've got the knowledge leader and the technical resources, and of course the support from your tutor. So there's, and I think, as I said previously, being postgraduate, of course, we do expect some level of self-research as well, of using external resources. One other thing to mention is that in Module 1 you do receive a copy of the IPPF, so the standards. So on the study load, so I think there was a question before, so usually one module per semester, but as we've said, you can do 2 or 3 together. So approximately 144 hours a semester, which is an average of 8 to 10 hours per week. Now that's potentially, and I'll get Tracy maybe to make a couple of comments about this too. Actually, I was going to get Tracy to say something about assessment too, so maybe you can cover both at the same time. So this is approximate, but it's probably up I believe it's a realistic level. If you are quite experienced already, you may require less. So it is flexible, as I mentioned. You can do things at your own time, but keeping in mind that you do have deadlines. You do have deadlines for your discussion posts, and you have deadlines for your assignments. So it is important to plan your work around your plan your study around your work and around your other commitments. So online classroom, I think we've been through that, and it's efficient, effective. It uses you can use your workplace in your coursework, you can apply what you're learning in your day-to-day work. Tracy, do you have anything that you'd like to add about the study load?
Yeah, sure. So I think the figures that you've got there are quite accurate. For me, when I was doing the study, what I found useful to break it up was to use public transport. So I caught the train to and from work, so I used that time to review my notes and go over my material. I also used lunch breaks where I could, and I let my family and my friends know that I was studying this course, and also work colleagues, because they were actually really useful in assisting me in gathering information and finding out what happens in the workplace. And so I broke it up into various areas, so I didn't feel overwhelmed, and also it didn't have an impact on other areas of my work or personal life. So when you break it up into little sections, I found that worked well. Can I just talk a little bit about tackling the assignments and the assessments? When I read the question, I broke the question up and then started jotting down my initial thoughts. And then when I drafted my response, I drafted it with the audience in mind, so that I was writing it in the right way. Often I would reread what I had written, because I found that when I looked at it the next day, it gave me a different perspective on what I was thinking and writing. And I also heavily engaged my colleagues to review and give their thoughts and feedback on what I had written, because often I found that when I was writing, there's an assumption that the reader knows what I was talking about, but often that wasn't the case. So it was really valuable to get their insights into that as well.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions around that? No? Okay. So just to go through the dates, so we have we work on like a university sort of 2-semester a year basis. So we have an intake that's usually sort of either end of Feb, beginning of March, or and the second one at the end of July or beginning of August, just depending on how the dates run. So the next semester starts on the 26th of February 2018. So there is then that break. So there's we have a 14-week semester, 12 weeks of teaching, including a semester break, and then we have 2 dedicated weeks to preparing for the final assignment, where the discussion forums will stop. Our website shows the current calendar, which gives you a bit of an idea of how that works. But then, so you do have that break between the 2 semesters. It's obviously, given Christmas, the end of year, beginning of New Year, there's a bigger break between the second semester and the first of the following year. So, as I mentioned, because we need to look at the certified documents, I would encourage you to apply early. We do have the set enrolment period, but you're welcome to send in an application at any time, and we can assess that. So I've just put the fees up there. They're valid until the 31st of December. If you apply before the 31st of December, you can keep those fees for the first module of 2018. But the fees will be going up in 2018. The fees are on, or our 2018 fees are on our website as well. So some people, as I said, this is very much a GradCert webinar, but people do often ask about the difference between the graduate certificate and the CIA, the global certification. So I'll just touch on it in case you do have those questions. They're both pathways to professional membership with IA Australia. I guess one of the main differences is the GradCert is suitable for people to early mid-career, whereas the CIA is probably mid to later career. So the grad cert, if you are very new to it, it does teach you the skills and knowledge for internal auditing, whereas the CIA is more the self-study assessment and improvement of your skills. Now, it's not to say you can't do the grad cert if you're more experienced, but it is well suited to somebody who's early on, or maybe you may have an established career, but it's in another area and you've moved into internal auditing, and we do get a lot of people do that. Actually, one thing I should mention with the admission requirements with the degree can be in any discipline. So we do get people coming from a large variety of different disciplines. So the grad cert's Australian focus and the CIA is global. So the CIA materials developed from IA in the US. Although that said, they both follow the same standards. It's just that the grad cert has more of an Australian focus to it. So the grad cert is a textbook first.
Sorry, Amanda, I was just going to say, I've actually, yeah, I've completed the CIA, and obviously I teach the thing. I've just found with the CIA, it's two particular points, actually 3 points I just want to add. First, it is fairly theoretical in terms of its application, with no disrespect to the thing, and it's very US centric. So there's inclusion of a lot of legislation and a lot of topics, etc., that is very US centric. And thirdly, probably the most importantly, when doing the CIA, you're very much on your own. Basically, they send you modules, and basically that's it. And you sit the exam at your leisure. Basically, with the grad cert, it is a more collegiate requirement, very Australian focused, and there is an interaction where people are actually learning from each other, which you don't have in the CIA. I mean, in hindsight, if I was actually doing my thing again, I'll probably end up doing the grad cert rather than the CIA, because probably I would get a lot more out of it in terms of its practical application and just the networks you build. I mean, that's probably the key points coming out of the difference, and that's just a personal view anyway. Both are good, but just its application is a bit different.
Thanks, Shannon. If anybody does have any particular questions about the CIA, I'm happy for you to contact me outside, and I can tell you a bit more about how that works. But yeah, so those are a few comments anyway, and the final text, the grad cert text are accredited, so it's actually a postgraduate qualification, whereas IA is a global certification. But it's sort of it depends a little bit also what you're wanting to get out of it, and whether there are different reasons for doing each of them. So I'd be happy to talk to anybody outside about that. So there's just a couple of questions here. It's from Bron. Is there a use-by date for undergrad degrees? That's a good question. I can't remember whether we've got a 10-year on it or not. I think the answer is no. I just need to check the policy. I'll need to get back to you on that just to be absolutely certain. I think you're all right, but I'll double check it. And Shelley, is there an option to cross-credit the grad cert IA to CIA? At this point in time, unfortunately, there isn't. We have been and continue to be in discussions with IA Global about whether there's any way to get an exemption for people who have undertaken the grad cert to get an exemption for part 1 of the CIA. The CIA is a 3-exam certification. So we continue to have that discussion. At this point in time, the answer is no. Although just on that point, the other thing that we are working to do is get some academic standing for the grad cert into universities. We currently have some within Macquarie University in their Masters of Accounting programs, but we are looking to we're talking to other universities as well to see what we might be able to get by way of RPL into business programs as well, particularly sort of MBAs and that sort of thing. So that's an ongoing discussion we hold with universities too. So but yeah, back on that cross-credit into CIA, we will continue to hold that discussion, and in fact, I've raised it very recently again. So I'm hopeful in the future. Okay, so what next? You can go to our website. There's a lot of information there. There's all the policies, the handbook's very useful, goes through everything, or you can call us. Actually, one thing I don't think I've put there is our email address, or have I done that on the next slide? Let me have a look. Okay, so registrar, registrar @iia.org.au. That's now, actually, why don't I write it in here?
Yes, if you pop it into the chat box there, Amanda, it becomes like a clickable link. Yeah, it becomes a clickable link for everyone.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. So there you go. So there's our email address as well. And I'm very happy to talk to you. So this is our website. I know we're running out of time, but you can get the link on the slide. So that has all the information, policies, RPL, the handbook, the module calendar, the fees. It hopefully covers pretty much anything, but we're more than happy to take any calls. If you specifically, I've just got this last poll, which I think was the one that came before, but if we could pop it back up again, and that's if you specifically want me to contact you following the webinar, please do that. It will log your details and I'll contact you. But of course, I'm happy for you to just contact me when you're ready to contact me. So maybe we'll just take a few seconds because I know we're 1:05. So is that open, Michael?
Yes, it is. And people are popping in responses there. It's terrific.
Fantastic.
All right, then I'm just going to close the poll. And,
okay, great.
There you
go. Well, we'll just look at those after. So just any final questions, I guess, before we log off and you can get back to your work. Any final? No? Well, thank you very much for coming today. Appreciate it. I hope that you've learnt more than what you came in with. And I'm sure Michael will wrap up as well, but I also just wanted to thank Michael for hosting, but also thank Michael, Shannon and Tracy for giving up their time to be available as well. So that's about it.
Amanda, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Thanks everyone for attending today's webinar. Thanks to all the presenters, especially Amanda for pretty much moderating the entire webinar tonight. It was great to have you here, and also it was a very interesting and informative webinar. I hope got a lot out of it. There is a feedback form that pops open. Please take the time to fill it in. I think specifically for this webinar, IIA would love to have your feedback. Was there too much information, too little? So just share your thoughts in the feedback form. It will pop open when the session closes down. So thanks for that. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. Well, there's not much of it left really. Until we see you next time, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.